All right, we'll reconvene into business session. First item on the agenda is report from student representatives and student recognition.
All right, I'm Lizzie McCarville. Do I have to tell what I'm involved in?
Yes, you do.
Okay, I'm president of student council. I'm in NHS. I'm in drama club. I'm in law enforcement club. I am the class president, and I'm in volleyball, basketball, and softball. So, okay, and you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Addison Gibbs. I'm a junior. I'm involved in cross country, basketball, baseball, student council, NHS, law enforcement, and drama club. So the first thing we have was just a couple weeks ago, the student council took part in the annual Lake Arrowhead craft show, and it's similar to the Fun Fest. And what we did there was there's like 10 students, and we worked the concessions and helped the people with other things.
Homecoming this year, the exact date of homecoming, like the dance and everything, will be October 7th. We're adding powder buff to our activities list this year. This is the opposite of powdered puff, where the boys will be playing volleyball. So that will take place the Sunday before, and then, or the Saturday before, and then the Sunday before will be powder puff. Thursday the 5th at 6 o'clock is the parade, followed by the pep assembly and bonfire as usual. And then Friday, our football team plays Oakfield at 4 o'clock. Saturday, the volleyball team has their conference tournament, followed by the grand march and then the dance.
And then for the drama club, we had our first meeting, which was yesterday, and we just kind of talked about the play, and we signed up for auditions. We chose a comedy that's like set in a hotel, and the characters experience all these sorts of problems, and it results in pretty funny chaos. So.
And then I think Mr. Crandall's covering all of our sports, so we'll leave that for him. And that's it.
Well, maybe you want to mention how well your volleyball team is doing since you're in.
We're on an 18-game winning streak right now. So.
Awesome.
Okay. Thank you very much. Here, you can feel free to leave if you want.
You're welcome to stay for the entire meeting.
Next item, thank you. Next item is President's Report. All board members are in attendance, and our next board meeting is Wednesday, October 11th, and our annual meeting and budget hearing is Monday, October 30th. And next up is administrative reports. First up is Superintendent Cronin.
Thank you. So this evening, I just want to spend just a couple of minutes talking about our in-service time with our teaching staff. We spent 4 days this year versus what is usually 3 days. But one of those days was dedicated, the very first day was dedicated to the teaching staff, getting a crash course in our student information system, Infinite Campus. And we're still learning that system, but we've got it moving on. You can get on. I can see grades for my kids now when I go on. I can pay my children's lunch balance online now, and we're still moving forward. There's quite a bit yet to learn. Some capabilities we haven't tapped into yet, but that was our first day of in-service. Our second day of in-service was all staff, and again, I thank the board members who were able to make that, along with Ed Hoyer, who spoke on behalf of PEEF, and the United Way folks who also spoke for a few minutes. And that's typically more getting the business of all the things we have to cover, from mandatory reporting to bloodborne pathogen information, how to use EpiPens. All that basic information comes at staff that day. One thing we did, and I do want to mention, we launched to staff during our in-service week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have the support staff as part of this, because of the timing of when the folks could meet with us. But on Wednesday of in-service week, we launched our new social media sites. And so the school district now has a at Port Edwards SD Facebook page. And we now have a Twitter hashtag of PESD Hawks. And one of the very first things we posted was really exciting. It had over 6,000 people reached. It was a photograph of the teaching staff and the support staff. And so that was one of the very first postings. And during back to school night, we publicized that as well to parents. And just as an aside, in the past 7 days, we've had 7,200 reaches by our postings, meaning 7,200 people have interacted with postings that we've put up in the last 7 days.
Including all of this. Facebook.
Oh, yep. This is just on the Facebook side.
Oh, that's just on Facebook.
This is just on the Facebook side. So that's been that was one of the pieces that we launched. Just to give you an idea of the impact, we had a post yesterday at about 6 o'clock. And as of this morning, it had already hit almost 2,500 reaches. So in one evening. So the impact there has been quite great. The last day of in-service, this year we are moving forward with some changes in special education. We're doing more in the area of co-teaching, but we're trying to do this as a mix between co-teaching and traditional special education. And so the last day of in-service, we heard from our new special education director, Mary O'Brien, about the co-teaching model. We're going to spend actually quite a few more of our in-service sessions with the staff who are directly involved in that, doing more in-service on that co-teaching model. Again, we still do some very traditional special education along with that. So, but we knew there were areas where we had to deal with students who needed to be in the regular setting. So, beyond that, that was our in-service. I want to just spend a minute or so on enrollment. Currently, we're sitting at 412 students. The high school is at approximately 116 as of today at the moment. Middle school 123, and 4K elementary at 173. So that is our number at the moment. So that 412. That's right at the moment where we ended up last year. That's about 14 students more than we ended up last year. However, this Friday is the third Friday count by the state of Wisconsin on our enrollment. So we'll hone in on that number even more then. I expect that number will change, so that 412 probably will be different after this Friday. It's 412 in terms of students sitting in the seats, but that number that gets reported to the DPI will then include some summer school numbers. It'll include open enrollment, because there's calculations we have to do for open enrollment. It'll include our 6603 agreements, and those types of things will all be part of those numbers. And as I like to say, after the magic the DPI makes us perform, we'll know what our enrollment count is. So, but very positive in the enrollment, and some early indicators are very positive on the open enrollment end as well. So we're excited about that, excited to see what that is. Finally, the last part of my report, just an update as to where we're at with the energy efficiency. We met this week with Complete Control, our energy performance contractor. Complete Control, as we discussed, between the governor's budget proposal and what the legislature is proposing, we're probably okay to move forward now with energy efficiency and get moving on it. Because regardless of the other proposal, whatever budget comes out, we're going to be able to do the projects because of the timing that you pass those proposals. It looks like at the moment there will be a moratorium on new resolutions starting on January 1 through all of next year. So there would be no ability next year to authorize an energy project, but we're able to move forward on this year's project. In sitting down with Complete Control and working with the engineer that we had also worked with on our drainage issues, We are going to be reworking our energy proposal for this year so that it includes the big gymnasium roof as soon as we can. So we do have to work with Michaels on some new numbers on the proposals for the roofing projects, and the insulation and roofing. Once we get those numbers from Michaels Roofing in place, we'll be able to finalize the rest of our projects. Really what it's going to do, it's going to reallocate. We had intended to deal with the majority of the roof above us in the elementary building here, but at this point we're probably going to have to shift quite a few of those dollars and go new insulation, new roofing material on the big gym at the high school, and at the same time deal with the drainage issue we have there. The drainage issue will not be an energy efficiency piece that we have to account for on our end. So, but we have to do that. So, so in terms of energy efficiency, we're trying to move forward this fall with at least that gym roof portion to get that knocked off, so that we get that done.
Realistically, think that can be done by the snow?
You know, last year they knocked off quite a big section here at the elementary prior to snow, and they didn't start until November last year. We're hoping Michaels can get at this and get moving on it.
Yeah.
So, we were putting roof on in December last year. That's not always ideal, but depending on what we're doing, they can make it happen. So,
Great.
that's it.
All right, next up, Principal Christie, report on first week of school.
Well, as you know, we had our 5th and 6th graders at their new middle school experience the first week or so. Overall, it went smoothly. We have our 5th graders upstairs on 2nd floor between 2 5th grade core class teachers, between Mrs. Waltenberg and Mr. Steltenpohl, to kind of help them out. On 1st floor, we have more teachers in the middle school wing that are middle school teachers to help those kids get to their classes and find their ways. Overall, it was very smooth. The kids were a little bit panicked. I saw a little bit of panic that they weren't going to get to class on time, but their teachers, alleviated their fears and said, "Don't worry, we'll get you there." So I think by this week it's running like a well-oiled machine. I'll say that. So it's been a very smooth transition, and I really appreciate our middle school teachers for all the help that they've given these kids who were a little bit anxious about their first few days at the middle school, both 5th and 6th graders. And as far as the elementary school goes, we are off to a great start. 2 sections of each grade this year. Our new teachers are fitting in nicely. Our schedule is going pretty well. We're busy and we're full, but that's a good thing. So.
All right, thank you. Next up is athletics update. Athletic Director Justin Crandall.
Thank you for having me. Every Monday I'll get a kick out of it. I look at the agenda just to see what's on it. And I opened it up this Monday and my name was on it. And I took a double look, and almost as a second time I read it, Kyle called me and said, "You're talking on Wednesday." So here I am. Just to give you a little update on where we're at, it's been a chaotic fall, by far more chaotic than we've ever had before. August 8th-ish was the date that we told the team we were going to have to cancel our 11-man football season. Obviously, there were some mixed emotions with the kids. They were disappointed they weren't going to have a season. They were realistic about it, knowing they looked around and the numbers just weren't there. Our numbers were lower than we expected. We were about 5 or 6 short where we thought we'd be, and for varying reasons, and that happens. But so from that point, we kind of had to scramble a little bit. First of all, you got to call the WIA, let them know you're canceling. You got to call the commissioner. You got to cancel all your games with the other schools, the officials, blah, blah, blah. So then we decided, okay, we're going to try to play 8-man for the rest of the season. And at that point, schedules for football are usually 2 and 3 years in advance. I mean, this schedule for this year was done 2 years ago. So to scramble and find some 8-man games was a chore. But we've got 7 for this year, which is pretty good. We're happy with that. We just played a home one on Monday. We won 32-12, 6, something like that. So they're getting some playing time. We're kind of feeling our way through this 8-man football. It's different. I think we're learning as we go. From this point forward, I think it's probably the best option for us. With the lower numbers that we've had, it's much easier to hold a practice to just function with an 8-person team, because when you're in the low 20s and 11 man, that's tough to do a full practice and go against teammates. When you got the 8-man, you only need 16 to go ones versus twos, and it's a little bit more functional for the football side of it. So that's been a good thing. As Lizzie mentioned earlier, we have 2 home games left. October 6th for homecoming. It's actually a 4:30 start, and then the following week is October 13th. And that is a 4 o'clock start. So we do have 2 more home games for the varsity football. Middle school football, our numbers in the past couple of years haven't been very good. We've been in the 8-9 range, and as you know, we need more than that. And this year we're at 20. So we had a big group come out, which has been nice. Kyle kind of twisted both my arms to be the middle school coach. So I'm back doing fall football. I have Mike Martinson helping me out. He's a volunteer assistant. Several years of varsity experience, so he's been a great help with us. We just had a game last week, Thursday. We won our first game, 12-0. We play tomorrow, home against Almond, so I'd love to see everybody out. But we're having fun. It's a good group of kids. It's a good base that you can tell they really like playing together, and it's been a fun fall so far. So that is middle school football. Cross country, it's been awesome. For all our sports, you're going to hear this continued theme. Our numbers are up again. Last couple of years for cross country, we've kind of been hanging on 1 or 2 kids, sending them over in our Nakusa co-op for cross country. This year we're all the way up to 7 high schoolers that we're sending over. We have 3 middle schoolers who are managers, and they go over and run with them as well. So we've kind of got a base going, and we hopefully have some more numbers that are going to be able to filter up as we lose kids to graduation. They have a cross-country meet tomorrow or on Saturday in Wausau, 8:30 if you want to get up early and drive up there. Middle school volleyball, we have Tim Martins, our head coach, along with Amanda Wilhorn. They are busy down in that little gym. It's like herding cats with them. They're doing an awesome job. They have 25 kids total right now. So that is a chore. When you can only play 6 at a time, having 25 is a lot. So they've been doing the best they can. It's nice because it's a real well-balanced group. There's a good number of 8th graders, good number of 7th, good number of 6th. So it's good for the program. It looks like we'll be able to keep our numbers up and steady, as opposed to where we've kind of had some high numbers in one grade, low in the other. They play in Rochelle tomorrow. So if you want to make the drive, they play at 4:30 tomorrow. Plenty of stuff for everyone to go to. Last one, high school volleyball. Again, same trend, numbers are up. We have 20 plus girls through the 3 teams. First time we've had a C team or a freshman team in a couple years, so that's good. That was a lot of fun because we didn't really know if we'd have one, and then all of a sudden we have one, and now we have to find games. So we have 11 or 12 games for them to play. They play tomorrow night as well at 6 o'clock home. So that's been a good thing. As Lizzie mentioned, we have 18 games in a row that we've won, which I was texting Lisa last night. It's amazing. I mean, to win 18 in a row, there's one night, no matter who you're playing, you're going to have a snoozer of the game and be a little off, and they've been on. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah, clap, clap. We had a good crowd over at Almond last night. We had some good student section, so that's been awesome. This weekend, they're going over to Oshkosh. They have a tournament on Friday and Saturday. Those girls are going to be tuckered out. They play 7 total games. They're going to play 3 on Friday, and then they're staying in the dorms. And then they play another 4, I believe, on Saturday. So it's cool for them. It's something different. It's different than just going over to playing the same teams we always play. So that's good for them, and they're doing awesome. And then the last thing I just want to make you aware of is some of the discussions I've been having with a couple other schools in terms of co-ops. I've been approached by a couple schools. I know there's some internal interest for some different things, and I just wanted to let you know that at this point I am talking to some other schools about some options, feeling our way through it and seeing if we can make some things work for possible co-ops and some other activities. Early negotiation or talks, but something that we should probably just think about and and start talking with these other schools and just seeing where they're at and kind of seeing if it would be a good fit for us. So that's on the board, and that's kind of what we've been doing. So that's athletics.
Thank you. Any questions for Justin? Okay. Thank you again. Next item, questions and comments from people in attendance. See, we have one person that wishes to address the board. Bill Parks?
Yeah, and Justin just touched on the one thing that I wanted to talk about, and that was co-op sports. When I get home from my job today, I went online a little bit and I looked up some information on co-op sports. And the very last line that I found in one of the newspaper articles, that happens to be from about a year ago, was actually from a quote from someone in the WIAA. He happens to be in charge of golf and swimming and hockey and some of those other sports that around here aren't probably, well, in Port, probably aren't real high on the forefront. And I happened to print the article because I didn't want to misquote him. The very last paragraph says that it's a very complex issue. And I understand that, and I've had some conversations with Mr. Crandall and also with Mr. Cronin and with Mr. Thomasgard. I've also talked to people in the district that I work in about co-ops to see if they were even at all interested. The bottom line in his last sentence was, you have to step back and say, what's in the best interest of the students? And then all school districts have to work it out. So if we're looking at what's in the best interest of the students, and that's going to be my concern. I happen to have my son show up here today, which I didn't know he was coming for sure. He is interested in golf, and that's the perspective that I was going to approach this at. I know there's issues with gender issues and having to have equity. I know that in my talk that I had with Mr. Cronin, there is an identity issue. When I look at the co-op with Nakusa as far as wrestling in the past and with cross country, Nakusa so far, to my knowledge, has been very willing to title it Nakusa Port, where in my mind, and maybe only in my mind, and that's okay, that's helping to maintain Port's identity. So I think from the identity perspective, that part of it is there. In the conversation that I had with Megan over at Nakusa, who is the athletic director, her first comment to me was, if it's a co-op and you want to keep identity, he can go dressed out in all Port attire wearing black and orange and be perfectly fine. And the Nakusa kids can wear blue and white and it's perfectly fine, and she was okay with that. Now, I know there's other issues, transportation, whatever, and I'm not looking at this strictly from my child. Whether it's personality conflicts with coaches, whether it's, maybe I want to go somewhere where I can excel. I'm going to pick on Carson here for a minute. He's a little bit slight in stature, especially from the waist down. He's got really short legs. To be a sprinter or a jumper probably isn't going to be in his interest, although he loves to do both in track. He absolutely loves it. In golf, everybody's on the same playing field. He worked at a golf course all summer. He loves the game. If we get some kids maybe involved in that, there's job opportunities for caddying in the summer, which can help these kids. If they learn to love the game, can help them financially to help afford college down the road. There's a lot of things that can play into this. I hope it's a very serious consideration, whether it's golf, whether it's soccer, whether it's whatever. Port just doesn't have a lot of the numbers to have all of these sports. I'm not saying you have to co-op with any other school districts for hockey or swimming or whatever, but if there's a kid who excels at it and we're here in the community to do what's best for the kid, I think it really needs to be looked at. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Does Nakusa have golf?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, we will definitely take a look at that and get back. Thanks, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, number 8. Consider approval of minutes of past meeting.
So moved.
Been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 9, consider approval of financial reports. Is there any gifts?
Yes, we have another gift from Ginny Oliver again. Ginny and Phil Oliver donated 25 sets of youth headphones to the elementary. And I also received an email from Carly today that Trinity Lutheran Church did a school supply drive and donated numerous items to the elementary school. So that's what those thank yous were for.
All right, with the gifts, seek a motion to approve financial reports.
Second.
Motion by Tracy, second by Leo. Any more discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. There's no unfinished business, so we'll go on to new business. Number 10, consider approval of 6603 agreements.
There are several agreements there for your consideration. And just for your knowledge, the 6603 are negotiated agreements between two school districts regarding enrollment of children for a variety of reasons. We have traditionally had agreements both with Nakusa and Wisconsin Rapids. And so when we enter these, it is typically the best interest of the student that we're looking at. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. So I would ask your approval of those 6603 agreements.
And do these need to be done for each of these students every year?
Yes. And actually, the agreements from Nakusa, we've changed how we've set that in motion with them to make sure that we're both on the same page because of the fact those are dealing with special education students and the billing practices that need to be followed and those types of things. So.
All right, seek a motion to approve the 6603 agreements.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Doing these together? With both
Yeah, we
districts?
can do it together, I think, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 11, consider approval of volunteer coach Mike Martinson.
I recommend your approval, and if you didn't approve him, Mr. Crandall might be done coaching junior high football. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that he's working with you because he was
He's
coach
got-
when my son was in football, and he's very,
Lots of years experience,
well.
and he's extremely passionate.
Yeah.
He's got a grandson now in it, so I'm hoping we're gonna have him for a while now.
He's got a smile on his face almost every day out there with the
He
kids.
really enjoys it.
It would be pretty hard to find a negative vote tonight.
right, consider approval of Mike Martinson.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Number 12, consider approval of teacher incentive plan.
I'd ask your approval of loyalty incentive program for the next year, and also the earned incentive program with the modifications we had talked about in the closed session.
Would make a motion that we approve proposal 1 for the loyalty incentive and also the earned incentive program as discussed.
I'll second it.
All right, there's been a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. 13, consider approval of overload pay.
This got a little, just a little dicey in terms of figuring out the dollar amounts, just because we have to deal with the elementary schedule, and it's not. It was like somebody was over 20 minutes or 15 minutes, so we got it all figured out. For Mrs. McLaughlin and Miss Grayway, we'd ask your approval for the overloads for theirs. And it really boiled down to the amount of time that we had to have them assigned into the elementary, the cross between the two buildings, and we were overtime on both.
So moved.
Second.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to approve the overload pay for Tina and Natasha. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. 14, consider approval of increase in FTE.
Between Mrs. Pulvermacher and Mrs. Frizzell, because number one, Mrs. Pulvermacher, it was essentially the same type of situation. It was the hours. It was over here. There was more time than. Yeah, going to 2 sessions at the different grades. So it raised her percentage, and then with Miss Frizzell, we kind of re-looked at how we were doing a study hall Spanish situation to even some numbers out differently. So that kind of that accounts for that increase there.
Entertain a motion. A motion and a second for increase in FTE for Rachel and Jennifer. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carried. Opportunity for individual board member comment. Kathy?
I just wanted to say how pleased I am that Mrs. Bogdan and Mr. Martin in 4th grade have taken on the project to work in the green space down there by the Monarch Habitat and get their children involved in the gardens down there. I think that's really neat. And again, I just wanted to say how wonderful it is that Mike Martinson is volunteering his time. That's great.
All right, Leo?
The legislature is in the final throes of its budget process, finally. I would encourage, as I have in the past, that citizens and taxpayers and parents pay close attention to the educational components of the budget relative to their kids' opportunities, and that if you have thoughts, pro or con, concerning what is done, that you don't hesitate to contact your representatives with that information. So part of being an informed taxpayer and citizen, and especially an informed and involved parent, making sure that there is funding and program opportunity for your kids on all levels.
Right. Okay.
I guess just to comment, kind of enjoy this time of the year where the kids are getting back to school. Not anything from home where I get the kids out of house or anything, but just nice seeing the kids back to school, interacting with their fellow students, and starting to participate in sports again. Seeing the activity around the school, it just feels right this time of year. So that's it.
I agree with Carrie on the excitement for the kids going back to school. I'm really pleased with all of the efforts, the energy, and everything put into maintaining the football program for our boys at the high school level. We don't have a lot to work with, and I'm grateful, especially with my son being a senior, for him having something to do this season. My question was going to be, will we continue with the 8-man probably here on out? And I think that makes a lot of sense, because we don't have big numbers for the boys, and it seems to be working out. And I know my son's having a really good time, so I appreciate that. I think it's awesome.
Thank you. Only thing I have is I'd just like to say kudos for everyone involved in the social media rollout. I'm happy with the new presence on Facebook, and I think it increases our profile, and it's the only thing but positive for our district. So congratulations for everyone involved in that.
And it really goes to the teaching staff, who's going to end up, they're putting
Supply.
a lot of the content up on it. So
All right. With that, we'll establish future board meetings. We already have the October ones set. Do we want to do November? November, what would that be?
Would be
November 8th, all right with everyone?